Morning guys, so I had a really nice day yesterday with my sister and girlfriend out and about, and today I'm just writing some emails and I'm going over client updates. I want to open the floor to a Q&A session which I will hold later today, so if you've got any questions please just swipe up and I'll get back to you, so cheers. Want to see today's fit tip of the day, I recommend you go to my Facebook page, Stephen Hall, because it's too big to fit on the screen. So I'm going to cover off a few of these questions that have come through. So one of them is, it's a deload week, what tips have I got for them? First of all, you have to think about what is the deload. You've got a lower volume of work and maybe a slightly lower level of intensity to recover. The deload is there, assuming that you've built up to a bit of a peak, you're a bit overreached, you're functionally overreached, and so you need some time to recover, repair the damage that you've made. So the biggest thing we're trying to bring down is fatigue, so we can set ourselves up for another block of training, another mesocycle, another kind of 4 to 6 weeks. So the biggest contributor to fatigue is volume, so you've got to bring down volume. So the worst thing you can do in a deload is massively bring up volume. Intensity does contribute to fatigue, but not as much as volume. So you can bring intensity down slightly, but not a crazy amount. You can bring down volume in various ways. You could reduce the number of sessions you do in the week. You could halve your reps that you did from your week before. With intensity, you just have to kind of reduce the load you've been using. So if you've been using 100 kilos, maybe use 70, 90 kilos. And also aim for kind of RPE 7s or below. You should come out of the gym feeling fresher and fitter than when you go in. You shouldn't be feeling more tired. You should be focusing on form and technique, not the burn, not hitting failure. Next question is, someone is on a high calorie intake and they're overshooting protein. They keep going over the amount of protein they need. They asked whether getting protein from carbohydrate sources, from other things that aren't pure protein sources, whether that's okay. The easy answer is yes, absolutely. You want to count every single thing that you eat, the protein in there. That's absolutely fine. Assuming you've got some high quality protein sources in there, absolutely fine. You have to remember, you have to make the diet something you enjoy, you'll stick to. So if that means slightly overeating the most optimal amount of protein, then go for it. Next question, I can answer the question right away, and it's where to get my protein mug cake, like step-by-step guide, ReviveStronger.com, in the recipe section, protein mug cake. The next question is, why do people avoid white bread or white flour? Why? Most people that do this are misinformed. They think that refined foods, processed foods are bad for them. They see white as being a bad thing to have through the media. The thing is, this lacks overall context. White bread might be bad for someone if it brings them into a calorie surplus, if it means they don't get enough micronutrition, they don't get enough fibre. Overall, people think that white is bad because it is lower in micronutrition and fibre than brown or whole grain. As we know, in reality, it's the overall context of the entire diet. If you're getting enough macronutrition, micronutrition, fibre, phytochemicals, fruit, vegetables, you can eat white, brown, whatever you want. So far, I am off to enjoy some pizza with my girlfriend. Any other questions, please just swipe up, ask away. Pizza, homemade, crust looks good. Having a Pepsi Max cherry and a big old bowl of salad. Enjoying this through, and I thought I'd cover it off while I'm eating my pizza, and that is, what is my favourite topping? Well, my favourite toppings are probably ham, cheese and olives. When I go out, I most regularly just have a margarita. 1, it's the cheapest. 2, it's the most consistently tasty. And 3, a lot of the time when I go for other things, I end up regretting holes in your crust. That's what you want, guys. So I think Charlotte's a bit disappointed about hers because it's half the dough that I have. But I think that looks alright. It fills up the plate. Looks good.
It's okay.
Got a question on articles I recommend for looking at periodization. So I recommend you look at my article, Periodize for Progress, and then Phase Potentiation. Now the good article specifically for powerlifting is by JTSS Strength. Articles, Periodization, Powerlifting. Just spent a while thinking about what I'm going to do next. I've got 3 weeks until I go to Australia, so I want to get into some real hypertrophy work before going away, something I haven't done for a long time. When you're setting up your own training plan, you get very caught up in the details, and it stressed me out. I didn't feel good about it, and it makes me think that a coach should be helping. my rough outline: lower, push, pull, lower, upper. And main work is 3 sets of 12, assistance at 2 sets of 15, and then I'm roughly tracking the volume there already, predicted volume on my quads, hamstrings, chest, back, shoulders, bicep, tricep, calves, lands within the lower end of the recommended. It'll look relatively high volume because it is metabolic type training, so it's 12 to 20 rep training, which is really like slow twitch muscle fiber stuff. Sure, it's not powerlifting specific at all, but that's not what I want it to be. I want to get away from that, really focus a bit on bodybuilding and do something that I haven't done in a long time. So because my training is changing, I'm increasing my calorie intake by 100 calories, so 3,000 calories. I'm also going to start supplementing with beta-alanine, which is going to help me in the upper rep ranges. Got a question through on what I think on pre-exhausting a muscle group before then hitting it with another movement, like a compound movement. Theory is if you do some hamstring curls and then go on to squats, you're going to pre-exhaust the hamstrings so that the quads have to be predominant during the squat. The theory there is because you really want to hit your quads and you don't want your hamstrings to come into it at all, which arguably on a squat it wouldn't necessarily happen that much, but that is the... Pre-exhausting in general is dangerous. It's also going to act against progressive overload on compound movements. I don't recommend it done like that. What you could do is do a squat, say you're going for like 6 to 8 reps, 3 sets, heavy squats, you get that heavy work in. Then maybe do some higher rep leg curls so you get the hamstrings knackered, so then you could move on to something like a leg press, and then your hamstrings aren't going to come in. You could hit the leg press for something like 8 to 12 reps and you're going to be focusing on all quads. So you kind of like sandwiched your quads. Arguably, however, if you just focus on actually using those particular muscles during the movement and you're doing the technique right, you should be able to get away with it without having to do pre-exhaust work. I want to talk to you about why I like my 5-day split of lower, push, pull, upper, lower. More advanced, it becomes difficult to really like hit muscle groups, and there are benefits to kind of the old school bodybuilding approach where they smash muscle groups, where you'd absolutely demolish your legs or your quads one day, you'd absolutely demolish your chest another day, your arms another day, your shoulders, your back one day. So there are some benefits to that. You can actually overload those muscle groups really well, but when you're a natural, your kind of protein synthesis is upregulated for a maximum of 72 hours, more likely 48 to 24 hours. You want to take advantage of that and train multiple times during the week. That brings me to why I like the lower push-pull. So on one of my lower days, I can have a quad emphasis. On the other lower day, I can have a hamstring emphasis. So I still get that kind of split benefit. And obviously when I'm pushing, I'm concentrating on chest, and then when I'm pulling, I'm concentrating on back, and then the other upper body day can bring up the volume, but I'm not focusing on either one. For example, my first upper body session, I've got 4 sets of front squats, 2 sets of straight leg deadlifts. But my other one, I've got 4 sets of straight leg deadlifts, 2 sets of front. It doesn't have to be 3 sets of each, both sessions. I can have an emphasis day, and especially when you're a bit more advanced, this is really beneficial and something you could do. Guys, so I had a good question come through on whether I'd recommend straight leg deadlifts or Romanian deadlifts or a deadlift variety as opposed to just straight conventional deadlifts in a hypertrophy block. If you're going above anywhere of say like 10 reps on a deadlift, on like a conventional deadlift, I think the risk for injury is too high. You have to consider not just the risk of injury, but more so how tiring doing high rep deadlifts is, and it's probably going to take away from your overall volume, which is key for growth. Even if you're a powerlifter and you want to be deadlifting because it's specific to your sport, because you're in a hypertrophy block, I'm assuming you're far away from your powerlifting meet, so it wouldn't be such an issue. If you did want to keep your deadlift in there, the conventional or your standard competition deadlift, then I'd recommend at least doing one lighter variety like an SLDL or RDL. I think that's going to be the end of the Q&A for today. I'm going to head to bed, do a bit of reading, but if you have any questions, feel free to send them through and I'll get through them tomorrow. So cheers guys, ReviveStronger.